Hello everyone, welcome to Community Force webinar. My name is Mehreen Mirza. I am going to facilitate this webinar and will be answering questions that you may have during the Q&A break. Now we know that we have quite a few attendees who have registered. So while we wait for everyone else to join, let us show you how you can use this webinar to ask questions and access the handouts. As you can see, there is a panel on the right-hand side of your screen with an arrow. Please use that arrow that is represented in an orange box to collapse or open this panel. A copy of today's presentation is available in the handout section. Please click on the PDF copy by clicking on the title of the handout as shown here. This handout contains the links to individual help guides, knowledge-based articles for each of the topics that we are covering today. Also, all of you have been put on mute in order to avoid any confusion during this presentation. So you can use the question area to type in your questions and click on send or enter. We will receive your questions and answer them by either typing them in or verbally during the Q&A break. If you miss answering any of your questions, we will get back to you with a response via email after this webinar. Okay, let us see. Okay, let's see. So, since most of you have joined, let us get started with this training webinar. The topic for today is ways to limit applicants from applying to an application form. Now we have with us our amazing trainer, Christine Smith, who will be going over all the relevant areas under this topic. The duration of this webinar is 1 hour. I will now pass over the mic to Christine to start this training. All yours, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you so much for getting us started, Maureen, and with that wonderful introduction. So let's go ahead and get started. So of course, what we're going to be covering today is we're going to be going over some key functionalities that we have on our site that allow you to limit how applicants can access application forms. So that would be limiting them before they apply. So we're going to go over pre-qualification questions, how to activate those as well as create those. And then we'll go over if you have a private application, how you can use an application invitation process to invite applicants to a private application. And then another way, some of the different ways that you can do that. And then we'll also go over some functionalities regarding a referral process. We have two different ways with Community Force that you can create a referral process. So we'll go over those then as well. So who's going to benefit from today's webinar? Of course, that's going to be any of you global administrators who are responsible for monitoring applicants that apply, inviting applicants that apply. Those individuals would benefit from today's lesson. So the topics we're going to cover are using pre-qualification questions, providing a grant link on a private application, and the application invitation process. And then we're going to take a break, and any questions that you've entered while we were going through the presentation, then Maureen will be reviewing those, and then during that break period, that's when she'll be answering those questions. And then of course, after the break, we'll go into the two types of referral functionalities that we have. We have a pre-built referral form, and then also how we have a functionality called section mapping and what that is, and that is a special feature, and then how you can use that functionality as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the first topic of using our pre-qualification questions. So pre-qualification questions are built into your application form. And they are what we call a combination of questions. They're yes/no questions. They can't be anything but yes, no. And you have the applicant, when they go to apply for an application form, they would see these questions and then answer them, and they have to answer in a specific yes/no combination. If they hit the combination, they get access. If they don't answer correctly with the combination, then they are given a denial message letting them know they're not eligible to apply. So for pre-qualification questions, in order to use them, there is some setup functionality that you would need to do. So let's go ahead and go to the site here. And I am using a scholarship site today, but if you are a grant user, don't be alarmed. It is the same functionality. And of course, if anything that says scholarship or funding, that would be, of course, the grant as well. And if there is any differences between a grant site and a scholarship site, I will address those differences in today's session. But just know that if there aren't any differences, then it's the same functionality, whether you're using our scholarship platform or our grant platform. Okay. So for pre-qualification questions, there's a couple of different settings. So I'm going to start with the administration site setting. And that's going to be under the administration site settings. And you'll see in the site setting one setting for pre-qualification questions. So what this setting does is determines when they click the apply on an application, when do they see the qualification questions. So you can have it where it's after login, which is what I prefer. After login means they've already got a user account, they've created that user account, they've clicked the apply, they've logged in, and then once they log in and access the application form, they're going to get those questions. Or you can set it for before login where they don't have to create an account. That as soon as they click the apply on that application form, they get the questions. If they aren't eligible, then they get the denial message. If they are eligible, then they're given the ability to create an account or go ahead and log in with an existing account. So that's two of the settings that are available there, the after login or the before login. And so then once you do that, then the next step, of course, is once you build your application form. Whoops, I used the back button. And the application form has been built. Then once you build that application form, in general information, you do want to make sure, so under application settings and general information, you want to make sure that you do have the enable pre-qualification during applicant sign-up selected as yes. If this says no, then the pre-qualifications questions will not appear to your applicants. So you do want to make sure that that's set on the general information of the application form. And then also you have where you build the pre-qualification questions. So those are located in pre-qualification questions. And then when you open that screen up, if you don't have any qualification questions built, of course, the data would be empty here. But what you do is the first step, of course, is you're going to add your question. So you would click the add a question and then type your question. That you're just kind of building this the same way that you just have a text box. And then you just create what you want them to see. And remember, it has to be a yes, no question. And then you would hit save and exit that they're answering. And then it's going to give you the information here. And then the questions are going to appear here. And then for every question that you enter, you're going to have what's called a proceed combination. So there's going to be a column for each one of those questions that you've entered up here. And so what you would do then is what's the formula, the combination that they have to answer in order to have access. This is the proceeding to the application form. So you can see you have the ability here, you would put what those replies are. If there's multiple different ways that they could answer that, you do have this little plus sign here. And when you hit that, you can add multiple combinations because of course you may have a combination. If it's this, or this, they can have access. Or if it's this, this, and not this, then they can have access. Different ways that you can add that by entering the plus sign. And then, of course, the other thing that you can enter here, the pre-qualification denial message. Again, this is just a text box where you just type in it, put the denial message that if they don't have the combination correct, they will get a denial message. And maybe you might want to even put in this denial message information on who to contact, maybe why they're not eligible, like if you're not an employee, you're not a, what the requires for them to be eligible so that they know what they entered wrong in case they made a mistake. And so then, of course, once you're done here, you would just go ahead and hit save, and then that would save these questions. And then once you save them, then they're available for the applicant to see them when they log in. So how does it look to the applicant? Let me just close out of here because I don't want to make any changes on that. So the applicant, when they log in, if it hasn't kicked me out yet, okay, and they log into their site and they're searching for applications. So if I go to view all funding sources here, and I hit the apply button, and there's going to be a screen here because this is a multi, they won't see this, but this is just a special functionality I have set up on this because this is for multiple submissions, of course. So here's the pre-qualification. So here's what they're going to see. And then, of course, then they have to answer the questions accordingly, hit the submit. If they answer the correct combination, they'll get access. If they don't answer the correct combination, then they'll get the denial message. So there you can see how those questions appear. So let's go ahead and cancel out of there. So that's pretty much pre-qualification questions. It's a pretty simple process to set those up. And then once they're activated and you've got them activated in general information, they'll be available for your applicants as well. So that brings us to the next topic of the grant link. Whoops. So the grant link is another way. So you have private applications and public applications. So private applications are going to be applications that you've built that you do not want everyone to have access to. You want to limit the access. So in order to limit the access, you do have a need to have a means to get that information so that they can apply. So how do you do that? Well, one way that you can do that is through the grant link. So if I go back to the site here, the grant link is a URL that takes them directly to the application form, and then they can begin applying if they have the link. All they need to do is have the link. So if and the link isn't just the link to this website, it's a link that takes them directly to the application. So if I go to manage application funds, this is done through the fund because all of the things that the applicant sees in regards to that posting page, that fund opportunity search page is all driven by the application fund setup. And so you're going to notice when we come here to the funding source, we have applications that are published and we have application funds that are not published. So to make an application a private application, it's all driven in the fund setup. So if the fund that's tied to the application form is published, that is going to be a public application. So anyone can access it. However, if you have an application form that has a fund tied to it and that fund is not published, no one can access that unless they have a link to it or they've been invited using the application invitation process, which we'll show you here shortly. So how do you make a fund published or not published? So if I go in on this application form here, and I click the edit, and there's a toggle here that says published, viewable to applicants. So if this says no, then this application process is private. This is what drives it from being private versus public. If I want it to be a public application, then I would mark that as yes. So that's where that is located. So then once it's not published, how do you invite applicants to apply to it? If they can't access it from that search screen, how do they get it? Well, if we go back in on that application form, and this is on all of the fund sources, If we go back in on that funding source, you're going to notice here a funding opportunities link. So if I copy this link, this is a link here, and it shows that it was copied, and I go in as an applicant, or you can take this link, you can email it to your applicant, and then when the applicant gets it, they can click on the link, and then when they click on the link here, so if I'm an applicant and I click on the link and I access the site, you'll see it takes them directly. They have access to it. They can click, they can continue. If they can have this one I've already started, but if I hadn't started, I would have an apply button. They can access that application form because they have the link. So that's one way that you can get the private application to them. If they have the link, they can access it. Now, one caveat with that to remember is if the applicant gets the link and they forward it to somebody else, that individual can log in as well. So that's where there's not a whole lot. I mean, once it's out there, you know, for them to pass on to whomever. But of course, it only allows those that have the link to access it. So that's one way that you can invite someone to a private application form. Now, the other way we want to talk about is the application invitation. So there's no link involved. What application invitation does is it allows you as the admin to determine who you're going to invite to complete the application. Only those that have received the email can access that invitation, and they have to be the ones that you've invited. Now, in order to invite an applicant to a private application using the application invitation process, they do have to have a user account created on the site already. That profile has to be created. You can't invite someone to a private application if they don't have an account already. So the first step, of course, is you would need to know who you're inviting, and you would need to create a user profile. If they don't have one already, you would need to go into your setup users, create that user profile, and then you would be able to invite them using the application process. So if we go back to the site here, to set up the application invitation, there are a few setup functionalities you want to do before you use this process. So if you go to administration, again in the administration page, and you go to the site settings, and then once in site settings, you're going to scroll down and look for this toggle right here, enable automatic application creation through application invitation. So this is an all or nothing. This affects all of your applications. So any application that you have on your site, it would be this process. So this is something if you have multiple departments that you would want to communicate this with your other departments and determine what's the consensus on a universal way for this process to work for you all. So what this toggle does is with the application invitation process, as soon as you invite someone to an application form, they will receive an email. You can determine when they get the invite one of two things. They get the invite with a link, they click the link, and then that gives them the ability to see the application and apply for it. They have to click the apply themselves. If they don't click through that link, and it's not them, they won't have access. So they can't go onto the site, search for it, and then try to find it. They have to click the link. They don't get the grant link, click on it, and try to access it. They have to, they were invited, and they have to have that link. If they don't have that application link, they can't access the application form to apply. So what this does, that's what the enable no would do. If it's enable yes, what the system does is you send the invite, they get the invite, but the application's already started and it's in pending submission status and it's sitting in their My Applications dashboard. So all they have to do is log in, go to their My Applications tab, find the application that's been started for them, click on that application and continue with the process. It's already been started and you can see that it's in the pending submission status, and you'll be able to see it in your Manage Application forms. That's what I prefer. Now, depending on which process you use, then the next setup you're going to want to look at is, depending on the process, what does your email say? Because as soon as you invite them, it's going to send them an email. So what does the email say? So that's where you're going to need to go into the notification center, locate the email that goes out. And as soon as it gets there here, so we'll go in on the application form and we will go to notifications here, locate the email, and it's this one right here, application invitation. Click on it. And depending on what process you chose in the site settings, then you're going to want to look at your email and make sure you have all the appropriate fields available in that email that they would need to have to be able to access it. Now in my scenario here, I pretty much have everything, but of course I wouldn't need this if I was actually using the one that I was using. I would want to change this to the statement of to click let's see, the application will appear on your My Applications tab and can be accessed from there. That's the statement that I would want for my process. The application URL I wouldn't need because it's already started for them, so they don't need to worry about clicking the apply. But if you're just giving them the invite and then giving them the option to apply, then you would want to make sure you have this merge field in here because they have to have this link to access the application form. Otherwise, they won't be able to get to it. And then, of course, if you want to give them their username and password, you can, but just a caveat on that, it's going to their mailbox. And if it's going into their mailbox and someone has received access to their mailbox with them not knowing it, then that does, of course, affect the integrity of their email login information and the data on our site. So that's something you might want to use caution as well. So that's the one thing, read the email, make sure it applies to your process, make any adjustments to make it fit, and then go ahead and make sure and update that, and then proceed with the setup. Okay, so once you have everything set up, how do you do the invite process? So once everything's set up, then in order to invite them, you'll notice in the notification area here, still in the notifications, you're going to have a tab called Application Invitation. If I select that, this is where you're going to see the screen, and remember, I'm in this application. I want to make sure you're in the application form, of course. And now you're seeing a listing of all the individuals who have user IDs on the site. And so what you need to do then is locate the person you want to invite. So I'm going to go ahead and find this individual here and search. And then once you find them, you select them on the left, click the arrow to move them to the assigned column. You hit save, and then asks if, are you sure? Because as soon as you click OK, it's out of your control and the email's going to go out. So as soon as you click OK, then it's sending an email to this individual. And then down here, you'll see that the application has been sent and when it was sent on. Now, since I had that toggle turned on to enable the automatic application creation, I can now go to Manage Applications here, and I can see in pending submission that they've got an application form ready for them to start. The applicant also, where are you at? Here. See if it lets me go back. It's not, I'm going to have to log in again. Okay, so the applicant will then see that that application has been started for them. and it's in pending submission. They log in, they go to the My Applications tab, they locate it, they can then click on it. And then once they click on it, they can proceed with applying. You as the admin, of course, you have where you can see, and then you'll be able to see when they submit and so forth. So that's how it works if you have that enable automatic application creation activated. Now, what if you have multiple submission activated? So you need to be able to allow them multiple invites. If you're a grant user, you may have this because you might have for different programs. So of course you have enable multiple submission activated in the general information. And so then when you go to do the notifications, you're going to notice an application invitation here where you have send a new invite. So you can't pick them over here because they're already over here. So how do you get another invite for maybe another program? You would have to select them, send a new invite, and then when you have multiple submission activated, you're going to see now here's another email that got sent, and then when you go to the manage applications, they're going to have a second application started if you have the multiple submission activated. So you can see here now there's 2 applications. So each time I hit send an invite and send it to them, it's going to create a new application for them, or send a new invite to them for them to start a new application. Okay, so that's how application invitation functionality works. So we're going to go ahead and stop here, I am, and then turn the mic over to Maureen, and she's going to answer any questions that came through. Maureen, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Christine. Okay, we do have a few questions here. One of the questions says, can I, just a second, let me go back one second to this question. Can I set up a different denial message? Right, we're talking in terms of pre-qualification questions. So as Christine has showed, we are allowed to create or customize our denial message based on the combination that the applicants are entering. But can that denial message pop up depending upon the answer the applicant has selected? Like if they say a yes, there would be a different denial message. And if they say no, there would be a different denial message. Unfortunately, no. Pre-qualification questions are very simple and straight. They are only a combination of yeses and nos. There's no conditional logic that can be applied, and the denial message cannot be based on the combination of answers that have been provided by the applicant. So the answer is no. Same thing applies to, can I set up conditional logic on pre-qualification questions? No, like I said. And then there is, just a second, one more question. Where did I go? Okay. I have sent application invitations, but the applicants are unable to access the site using the application invitation email. Now, you will have to go and cross-check email template. As Christine has mentioned, that is one of the initial setup that you have to look at when you send out application invitations. Please go to the notifications, go to the application invitation email, and have a look whether the merge field that says application invitation URL, as Christine is showing, yes, that URL is present on that email template or not. It's taking a bit longer to load.
Yeah, you can go ahead and proceed, Maureen. It's
Okay.
just, I'm going to go ahead and try to get this to log back in.
Not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, I'll proceed. Okay, so 2 things. Number 1, application invitation link. That itself is a merge field that's present. If not the merge field for the application URL, you're allowed to customize your email template, right? You can edit the existing email template. And then you can add a link of your website if you wish to. So they land somewhere at least. Otherwise, these applicants or your users to whom you're sending out these application invitations will end up not getting access to anything through the email. So there should be a link placed in the email template. That is extremely important. Same question, can I customize the email template of the application invitation? Absolutely. That is something that you should look at the moment you think of having a closed application process, that is by invite only. First, look at the email template that is present under notifications. Look for any changes in the language. You want to provide any instructions in that email template, please feel free to do so. Another question that comes up from can I customize email template is another one that someone has asked is, can I create a separate email template for application invitations? No, unfortunately, no. At the back end, that email template is tied to the functionality. There are certain triggers. As Christine has mentioned, the moment you click move your unassigned applicants to the invited list and click on save, that is going to trigger this email template to be sent out. You cannot create another one and associate it with the trigger. So that is about application invitations, pre-qualification questions. Just a second. I think I have answered all of the questions. They are basically the same. Yep. I think back to you, Christine. The rest of the questions I've answered by typing them in. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maureen, for answering those questions. Good coverage on that. So now let's go ahead and proceed. So now we're going to talk about referral. So with referral, when we talk about referrals, that would be a process where a nominator would be nominating someone to be able to go in and apply. So maybe with scholarships, you have a counselor, has their students, they want to go in, nominate their students, and then once the students are nominated, that student gets an email inviting them to the application. So we do have one functionality. It's a pre-designed functionality. It's a form that's pre-designed. It's called Manage Applicant Referrals. And it is something that you do have to activate in site settings. And once it's activated, then you can use the functionality. And so what that does is it allows you to have on your search page for your funds, there's going to be a button called referral form. And then, of course, when an individual comes to the site and they click that referral form, it will give a drop-down listing of all of the active application forms. So if it's a private application, it'll be in that drop-down, and then someone can fill out the nomination referral form for the nominated person they want to nominate. And then what'll happen is you as the admin will see who's being nominated, and then you can determine if they have access to the application form or not by then approving them and sending an email to them. So for the referral functionality, the initial setup is in administration, again, under site settings, as you could probably guess. If we go into manage site settings, and then once we get into site settings, we're going to scroll down, and it's in a separate section all its own called referral settings. So if you see this referral settings tab, click on it. It's going to open up the settings that activate the functionality. So to activate the functionality, the first one, of course, is you need to enable it. It needs to say yes. And then you want to determine how you want the functionality to work. So you can have it to where you have the referral form, the nominator goes in, fills it out, nominates someone, and it automatically sends an email to them with an automatic approval. Or you can have it to where the nominator nominates someone, hits the save button, and then it sits out where you as an admin can go in and see who's been referred and determine if you want to approve them or not. So if you activate that, then that opens up that functionality. Then also there's an enable agency screen. What that does is when someone fills out a referral form, the person filling it out, the nominator, enters their agency information. So that's the name of the agency they work for. So it could be, if it's a counselor, it's probably the name of their school, or if you're a granting organization, that would be of course, the person who's creating the nomination to nominate someone to complete the form. Where are they from? So you do have the ability to go into the enable. If you activate this, it does give you a screen where if they mistype the name or something and they realize it, they can't go in and change it, of course, but you do have the ability as the admin to go into the back end and make an adjustment to the name of that agency if you need to. So once you activate this, so you wouldn't want to activate it, make sure you click save. Once it's activated, you're going to notice there's two different ways you can do this. And once you activate it, it is for every application on the site. They will be in that referral form process. You will have over here a global, managed global applicant referrals. And what that is that's the same as you're going to see here on a single application, but this allows you, as with all of the global functionalities, it allows you to see multiple applications and who's been referred to multiple applications at once. So if I go into it, what it would require then is that you go and that you, I apologize here, my computer, when I have two browsers open, for some reason gets very testy with me. Doesn't like it. Okay, so if I go to Manage Global Applicants here, this is the screen. And then, of course, what this is going to give you is multiple application forms. I only have it on one, but it would give you all of them for all the applications that are out there. Now, if you're just wanting to look at one, you don't want to see all of them, you're only doing this on one application, of course, you can go in on the individual application. If I go to Home, and then I open up that individual application form, you can get from the Manage Applications tab, you're going to see Manage Applicant Referrals. And then that's where you're going to see just for that specific application who was referred. So here I can see who's been referred, and then I can determine here once they've been referred if I want to approve them, if I want to decline them, or if I want to approve and send email. Now, if you approve someone, in order to do the approval or decline, you would have to select them. And then here you would click the approve, and that's all it would do. It wouldn't send them an email. But if you hit the approve and send email, it's going to send an email to the individual that they referred. Now, and then the email address that they sent them to. The manage agency, if you remember when I turned that on, this is that button right here. So what that allows me to do is see all the agencies that have created referrals. And if they had a typo or something, I can just go in here, click that, and then change the name, and then hit save, and then that would change the name for them. So that's how that functions. So you know what that is. That's what that toggle was that I turned on. That's what that gives you the ability to do. So that's the Manage Applicant Referrals. It sees it, and then what it does, it sends them an email, gives them information. They would have to log in and start the application process. If they didn't have a user account, they would have to create an account as well prior to applying. So for the nominator though, let me go ahead and show you how that looks to them. Someone going in and nominating. I'm going to go ahead and log out here. So if I was somebody nominating, I would be in the fund listing. And as soon as I get in the fund listing, this is what is activated. See this little referral form button? And of course, if I click that, like I said, it would show us in this drop-down list all the applications that are currently active. So I can come here and select the application form I want to nominate someone for. I could put in their name. And then just address information. And if you notice this form here, these are the required fields. They're not editable, unfortunately, with this process. They're not editable. And then you would create the email. I'm just going to go ahead and use this one. And then this is where the nominator puts their information, and then their information. Okay, so then they fill it out. They hit save. It's going to let them know that that individual was saved. They click OK. And then as soon as they're done, it clears the top information. And the reason that happens is if they have multiple people to nominate, they can do so by just going in and then they start filling it out again, click save. This clears, they click it again, click save. So it just keeps nominating as many times as they want. Then when, of course, when they're done, they can just hit cancel and then that'll cancel the screen for them and they can get out of the system. So that's how the referral process works with that form. Now, another functionality we have is called Manage Application Section Mapping. And a lot of times this is used for the referral process. It doesn't have to be a referral process, but it's mainly for that because it's for inviting individuals to an application. And what this process does, this is a special feature that we have with Community Force. And it's a 2 application process. So you're going to create an application, and that application is going to be your referral form, is what it can be. And that's all that you have to put in there is just that one section for that referral form. Now, when you create that form and create that application, you do have to have 2 fields in it because the system's looking for these for this functionality, and they have to be named with this URL, NF name, and that's where they're going to enter their name, and NF email address. The reason these are important is because with this functionality, what happens is you create one application, which is your source application, which is the nomination form, and then you create a second application, which is the actual application that they're going to be applying to, invited to apply to. So what's going to happen with this process is in the first application, the source application, you're going to set up the functionality that as soon as this first application's status detail gets set to a specific status or status detail, it's going to trigger the system. The system's going to know when it hits that status and status detail to cause the data for that applicant, because you're putting it on the applicant. It's going to cause their information. It's going to do 2 things. It's going to go out to the system. It's going to look for this name. It's going to look for this email address. If they don't have that, if that's not in your user list, it's going to create one for them. It's going to create a login account for them. It's going to create a profile for them based on what is entered here in these 2 fields by the nominator. Then what it does is it takes and then starts the application for them in the target application and pushes all the data if you have in the target application. So if you create this form in the first application, and then in the second application, you create the same form, you just copied it into the second application, same URL, everything's the same XML, I mean, not URL, it's XML, I apologize, it's the XML. The same XML, of course, you know, that it'll import all that data down into the second application and start the application for them. Then it's going to send an email to the applicant letting them know an application. They've been nominated to this application. It's been started for them. Please go in and continue. So how does all this get set up? So let me show you here. It'll have more meaning once I show you the setup functionality. So if we go to the site, now like I said, this is a functionality that you do have to contact Community Force for. Once we activate it on the site, then it will be present. If you go to administration, you will see a functionality here called Manage Application Section Mapping. This is a plugin that is added to your site. And then once this is here, this is a functionality that is available for you to use. Now, before I click on this and show you how to use it, I'm going to go through how you set up the application forms. And then after the application forms are set up, then you'll come here and do that mapping for the target and the source and what all the status is and so forth. So let's go out, let's go home. And so what I've done already, I've already pre-built these, is I have two applications. I have my nomination form application, and as you can see, it's published. My second application, of course, is going to be private. Now, this published here is looking at the application fund. So the fund is the one that is not published. This is. So here we have scholarship application form. And this is the one that it's going to push the data from this one to this one. It's going to create the user ID, and then it's going to push their data to the second application form. So this is the one that the nominator is getting. So I'm going to click on it first so you can see what I have in it. And so if I go to application settings, and you just build this like you do a regular application. There's nothing special about the build other than what sections you're going to include. Now in my application, I just have a nomination form. If you wanted the nominator to fill out more data, you can. If you wanted to create more sections for them to complete, you can. Of course, one thing you want to make sure though is that XML is all consistent if you want it to push down. So if you're familiar with XML and building of applications, you know what we're talking about. It's same with the functionality. When they push data from one application to another, all that XML language has to match. So here's the section XML. So this section XML would have to be present in the second application. The nomination form section would have to be present in that second application. So here's the form I have here. I just have the one, make sure it's activated. I have my section name. Now you're going to notice here, I do have the two fields that I said were very important to have. This is the full name, first name and last name. And then I have a little note so that the nominee knows, note this name will be used to create the student login profile. Christine Smith equals the first name. Last name is Smith Jones. So what it would do is if I type that in that field, because it's a text field, that's what it's going to look at. It's going to look at the spacing and determine how it's going to create the profile. First name first, last name second. Here's that XML. Here's the XML NF underscore name. That's very important that you have that XML. So that the system, because that's what the system's looking for to know what field to use to create the profile. Same with the email address. I have the student email address, so that nominator wants to make sure that they get the correct typing. They don't have any typos as they're filling out that email address. And here's that XML again, NF email address 1. It's very important that this is the XML name of that specific field. And also you can see here the question type is email. Now up here I've used the question type program name. Now if you're a grant user that has meaning, you know what that functionality is. And so of course you can only have one program name per application, so this might not be something that you would push down, so that's why we have this data here. But the program name is, this is a nomination form. So what's nice is when you make the one that's been nominated as a program name, when you're looking at the applicant's going to be the person nominating. So you won't be able to see who they've nominated unless you have that as a program name, because what program name does is, if I jump back here to manage applications, if it doesn't freeze up on me. All right, now I don't have any applications, but when you do have applications, there's going to be a column, and it's going to have the applicant name and then a column called program name. So the applicant would be the nominator. The program name would be the name that was typed that they want to nominate. So you'd be able to quickly see who they're nominating. Like if they call you and say, I've nominated multiple people, I need help with such and such, you'd be able to quickly be able to find out who they nominated. So that's why that's a nice little helpful hint to make that the program name form. Now, that's that application. Everything's built. The next step then is would build the second application form, which is the application that the applicant's going to apply to. And if I go to application settings, you're going to see I have that nomination form. There's my XML. So then as soon as the functionality happens where everything gets pushed, then here it's going to push and repopulate that nomination form because I'm including it in the application as well. And then of course, if I open that up, you're going to see the XML name is the exact same XML name that was in the prior application. And it's pushing it in there. So you're going to build the application the way you would do the application. And of course, anything that you wanted to be pushed from the other application, you're going to want to make sure you include that as well. Now you might not, I have it as an active section, but maybe when it gets pushed down, you might want it to be a staff section so the applicant doesn't see that. You can do that as well so that only you can see it on the back end. So now once you have your two applications built, then you go to the administration tab and do the setup functionality for those two applications. I'm going to go to Manage Application Section Mapping, and this is what you're going to see. And remember, I said it was an all or nothing, so every application has the functionality. So then what you do is it gives you very good instructions here. It says applicants will be automatically created from the target application from the source application, and then the target application is going to automatically create an application for them in the target. So it's going to create a profile, and then it's going to start an application for them. And then any data from the source application to the target application is going to be pushed based on mappings, based on the XML language that it finds from the source to the target. They have to be the same. It has to be a perfect match. Applicants are going to get an email, and the nominator, the owner of that source application, is going to get an email as well. So then that's what it's going to do. So then what you do, the next step here is what's the trigger that makes all of this happen? So it says start the process when status changes to submitted and status detail changes to invitation sent. It has to be those two scenarios. You can pick whatever you want those to be, of course. And then what's going to happen as soon as that single applicant gets these two functionalities, they have a status of submitted and a status detail of invitation sent. What it's going to do is it's going to trigger the functionality to happen that you're going to tell it down here below. So then you create the mapping of what's the source application. So the source application was going to be my nomination form. And what's the push target? It's going to be the application for the actual application. So then I'm going to select it. Send email to owner. You can determine whether that nominator gets an email by putting yes or no. I'm going to leave that as yes. And then here is the sections. I would want to select the sections. So the section is the source section nomination form, target section personal information, or where would I want that data to go in because it's looking for that XML. So I'm going to say nomination form to nomination form. Hit save and exit. And now I've got my mapping and now it's ready to go. So now then what would happen is now we log in as the nominator. The nominator would have to create an account, of course. And then that nominator would have to search for the application. Here's the nomination form. I apply to it. I have the form. And then here's where I put okay. Okay, and then save and return to dashboard. And then they would have to submit that and review. Just the same process as if they were doing an application. Remember, I'm the nominator. Okay, so now I've nominated somebody. So what do you have to do as an admin? So you as the admin then go home and go into the nomination form, and you would see the individual here. This is the applicant. This is who there's that program name column. There's who they've nominated. So if you don't use that as a program name, you wouldn't have that. And then this is the email of the nominee. And then you as the admin, you would look at the application. Does everything meet the standards for you to go ahead and allow them to apply? If they do, all's good. So then what you would need to do, it's already at a status of submitted. So now I need to select this and I need to update the status detail to invitation. So I'm going to go over here. I'm selecting the applicant, change status detail. If you needed to change the status, you would need to go here, change the status, and then go to the change status and click change status, of course, and do that functionality. Then come over here, do invitation sent. That's the trigger status detail, and hit change status detail. And maybe I want this to be shown to the applicant because I want them to be able to see that. So when they go into the application, they'll be able to see it. And then I can hit save. And now it has been approved. And hopefully if it worked, you'll see. Yep. So now I have one application here. It's sent the email to that individual. It started the application for them. So now what they do is they get the email. Once they get the email, they'll have their login credentials in that email, and then they'll know how to log in. Once they log in, they go to their My Applications tab, and it'll be in their My Applications tab. They'll click it, and then they can continue with their application. That will take them to their application dashboard like this, and you'll see there that nomination form that I filled out. It's already been populated. If I had any other sections I've chosen, those would be populated as well, and then they can proceed. So that's how that functionality works. So I'll stop there and let Maureen take a few minutes to answer any more questions that have come in, And then from there, we can go ahead and proceed with their final discussion. It's all yours, Maureen.
Oh, thank you so much, Christine. So, last few questions. Can I? So, this is related to the referral form, the first part that Christine was covering after the break. Can I change the fields on the referral form? Unfortunately, no. That is how it is hard coded into the system. Once enabled from the administration site settings screen, it is going to stay the same. Now, as an alternative, if you want to make the fields more customizable, as Christine has mentioned, the section mapping functionality is a good alternative. Now, this way you can add fields and make them more customizable with, essay questions or radio buttons, anything else that you wish to add into that section. So that's going to be much easier for you. So the answer is no, the referral form fields cannot be edited or changed. um, Okay, this question has already been covered with the push mapping or the section mapping. Same functionality, referral form. How do I add or remove some referral agencies? Now, as you notice during the explanation that Christine was giving, there is a school or agency field that shows up on the referral form. When you log out of the site, when the referee is giving the referral, there is a school agency field. Once it has been entered, the admin wants to know if they can edit or change it from the administration dashboard. No, that is saved at the backend how it has been created or set up by the person who created the referral form. Now, if you still want to make any changes, reach out to us on support, open a ticket with us on support. Some of our team members will get back to you, and the thing has to be taken care from the back end. We need technical help, so we will reach out to our technical team and provide you with the changes. So in this case, the school or agency answer that has been entered will not be cannot be edited by the admin, even though you can look at things from the back end. And just a second, I have another question. Can I change the
Yeah, I'm
fields?
just
I
going to
think
go
I've
real
already.
quick and let them see
Yes,
what you're
please, please. Oh, yes, 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 please, Chrissy. Yep. Okay. View all funding opportunities. This is, we're talking in terms of the school agency. Oh, you're logged in, Christine. Yeah, that's probably why it's not showing. Okay, there we go, the referral form. And yes, there is a school agency at the bottom, right? If once it has been entered, once it has been submitted, it's locked in place. Now you cannot make that change. So that is where you'll need to reach out to our support team. That portion that Christine is highlighting on her screen. Thank you so much, Christine. I wanted them to have a visual as well. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Okay. Another question is, we are using the section mapping. The nominator has submitted the nomination form already, but for some reason, the applicant's application has not been created. There are a couple of things that you have to look at in such a case. Section mapping has triggers, as Christine has already explained. It's those sections, the applicant status, number one, and the status details. Check for those two things. If nothing is, if everything is in place, and yet you do not see the applicant's application that has been created, that is the target application has not yet been created, you will have to reach out to our support team. You might need a little bit of technical help here. We'll look into that, what is missing, and we'll provide you with a resolution to that. So that was about nomination, sorry, not nomination, section mapping. Why the target application has not been created. Referral agencies, I think I've covered that question. Can I change the referral form in the system? I have already covered that system. I think I've covered all the questions, Christine. The rest I've answered in the Q&A box.
Okay, perfect.
Thank
Very
you,
good.
everyone.
Okay, so let's go ahead and close our session. So of course, as with all of our sessions that we have, make sure you do get a copy of this handout because it does give you resources for all of the topics that we discussed, and a click here link that will take you to our Zendesk support help desk, and give you access to where that training video is that covers that, as well as a help guide links as well. So we have that for the majority of the topics that we covered today. And so that'll give you more details on maybe something that we didn't have enough time to go into details on how to do. So again, we want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules. And of course, as always, if you have any questions about anything we covered or think that it may be something that may work for one of your processes for your organization, please feel free to enter a support ticket and Zendesk, and then just ask for one of our client support specialists to be able to assist you in one of those functionalities and maybe do a process review with you so that you can get some more answers for something that might be of benefit to you, because we always want to help you make your processes better, and that's what we're here for. So never feel like you can't enter a support ticket and ask for a process review to get assistance to go over in more detail some of your processes and maybe something that might be of benefit. And of course, here's the Zendesk URL you can click on to quick access from this guide as well. So again, we want to thank you all for attending today's session. There is a survey that will appear once you close out. We do ask that you please fill that out. It's a very short survey, and it's very helpful for us to know what the needs of our clients are in regards to trainings and webinars, and what you would like to learn maybe in a future webinar. So please fill that out so that we can have that feedback and be able to assist you more efficiently. So we thank you so much, and we hope everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you.